Okay, so does anyone remember limits? Okay. Do you guys? Wait, you guys learned limits. Yeah, okay. How about limits for trig functions? Okay, so this is an easy one. Okay, so for trig, instead of like limit as x approaches 0, we usually use theta. So can anyone tell me the limit of as theta approaches 0 of sine theta? And so how would you solve this one? Yeah, and so this case, because we don't have to worry about zeros in the denominator or like all that, we just plug in 0. So sine of 0 is, 0. 1 point for Roshni. I had my hand up. Sorry. Okay, Monica. And so what is the limit as theta approaches 0 of cosine theta? 2 over root 2 over 2. Okay, so for this one, so we do a similar thing over here. Can you tell me what we do to solve this? Yeah, plug in 0. And so the limit as theta approaches 0 of cosine theta is cosine 0, which is 1. Okay, how about the limit as theta approaches 0 of tan theta? How come? Yeah, and so tan theta is the same as sine theta over cosine theta. And when we evaluate this limit, first we see if we can plug in 0 for theta. And so if we do that, sine 0 over cosine 0, that equals 1. 0 over 1, which is 0. Okay, but questions, anyone? What if we tried to find... Okay, well, actually, never mind. And so the one property that you have to use over and over in order to do the book problems, I'm not going to prove it, but it says the limit as theta approaches 0 of sine theta over theta equals 1. And so you want to write this one down because you have to use it for like every problem. Okay, so I'll give an example on how to use this. Let's see. Trying to think of a good problem. Okay, I'll do one from the book. There's a video for that though, so don't want to do anything. Okay. It's a good problem. Okay, so one of the problems in your book is the limit as theta approaches 0 of tan theta over theta. And so if we just try to plug in theta as 0, that's not going to work because tangent of 0 over 0 is 0 over 0, and we don't know how to evaluate 0 over 0. So instead, what can we do? Can we somehow use this property? Perhaps. So how is tan related to sine? Yeah, so tan is sine theta over cosine theta. Oh, I forgot to. Don't forget to write the limit as theta approaches 0 of. And so this equals the limit theta approaches 0 of sine theta over theta times 1 over cosine theta. And I just took the divided by cosine theta and put it over here. And now in order to evaluate this, if we split... Wait, can you repeat how you got to this? So here? Yeah. And so sine theta divided by cosine theta divided by theta. Well, okay, so sine theta is going to be in the numerator here. And so we're doing sine theta divided by cosine theta divided by theta. And so we're dividing by cosine theta and dividing by theta. So here, we're dividing by theta. And over here, Over here, we're also dividing by cosine theta, but I'm just doing times 1 over cosine theta. Actually, I should probably rewrite this as cosine theta times theta. So does everyone see how I got from here to here? Any questions? Okay. And now, are we allowed to split up the limit like this when we have the product? Yeah, and so we're allowed to split up the limit like this because it's one of the properties of limits when you're multiplying two things. Like, I'll just write over here, like property something like limit, let's say x approaches some value of xy is the same as the limit as x approaches that value of x times the limit as x approaches that value of y. So that's just like some arbitrary case. So in here, we're allowed to split that up into these two limits. Let's get rid of this. Can anyone tell me how to evaluate this? Like, how do we know what the limit as theta approaches 0 of sine theta over theta is? Yeah, it's conveniently written right here. And so this is evaluated as 1. Okay, I'll write this one up here. So this term here is 1. And what about this term? Well, yeah, and so for this term, we can just plug in 0 because 1 over cosine of 0 is 1 times 1 over 1, which equals 1. And so basically for all the problems in your book, you'll be given something like strange, but you have to try to factor out a limit as theta approaches 0 of sine theta over theta, and then you should be able to just plug in 0 or infinity or whatever for the other values.
Questions?
Confusions? Samantha?
I'm trying to comprehend your 1 minus 1. It's a 1 time.
Oh. Now it looks like an X. Yep, that's multiplying. And so is this. Yeah, so the answer is 1. Okay, so do you agree that this step is just a manipulation of this? Okay, and so you understand all that? And so for this one, this term is just that property which is given. And so for this term, you plug in 1 because that's equivalent to 1. And for this term, limit as theta approaches 0 of 1 over cosine theta, you plug in 0 for theta. So you get 1 over cosine of 0. 1 over cosine of 0. And cosine of 0 is 1, so it's 1 over 1. So 1 times 1 over 1 is 1.